should be clear, simple, predictable, flexible, and easily administered. It is also important to recognize that NAFTA automotive rules of origin have the highest regional content thresholds and do not include any country-specific sourcing. Improvements to modernize NAFTA in the 21st century include updating and expanding the list of job opportunities for temporary entry of business persons, update customs and trade facilitation provisions recognizing the integrated nature of the global supply chains in North America and around the world, update border infrastructure with mechanisms to address bottlenecks, create additional framework agreements within NAFTA, for example, for automated vehicles, data flows, cybersecurity, or other measures that facilitate e-commerce, increase regulatory cooperation with flexibility to align or mutual recognition of major international standards, for example, UNECE and US FMVSS. Finally, as a general rule, we strongly recommend not including any provisions in trade agreements that signatories don't want to use or will have used against them. JAMA Canada supports liberalized trade, such as NAFTA, for delivering mutual benefits to trade partners that enhance competitiveness for both automakers and part suppliers, encourage adoption of advanced technologies to provide safe and sustainable mobility for consumers that meet their transportation needs, and to provide reliable long-term employment for skilled and highly qualified Canadians. The auto industry in Canada is built on a foundation of open trade and continues to be highly trade dependent and deeply integrated in North America. Looking at the NAFTA region as a whole, Japanese automakers have made significant long-term commitments to localization under the principle of build where we sell. Japanese automakers have established a high-quality manufacturing and R&D presence in North America based on the NAFTA framework. The NAFTA framework has made North America a highly integrated and globally competitive region for automotive manufacturing and trade. JAMA and JAMA Canada hope for a framework that will continue to support and strengthen the competitiveness of the North American auto industry. Let me turn to summarize the impact and benefits that have arisen in Canada from liberalized trade and illustrate the build where we sell principle. Since 1965, 15.8 million Japanese brand vehicles have been sold in Canada. Since 1986, 17.4 million Japanese brand vehicles have been built in Canada. In the mid-1980s, virtually 100% of our sales were vehicles made in Japan. In 2016, 76% of Japanese brand vehicles sold in Canada were locally built in North America. About 29% were built in Canada, 36% were built in the US, and 11% were built in Mexico. When the Canada-US FTA came into force in 1989, Japanese brand light vehicle production in Canada was a little more than 100,000 units annually. In 1999, 5 years after the NAFTA was implemented, output had climbed to about 500,000 units annually. And in 2016, production had doubled to over 1 million units for the first time. Needless to say, the investment and growth of production in Canada would not have happened without open access to the much larger US market through preferential trade agreements like the Canada-US FTA and NAFTA. As a result, currently over 77,000 direct and indirect jobs have been created in Canada, including sales, service, distribution, manufacture, export and import of vehicles and parts. Let me conclude by saying that while our success in Canada has been based on a foundation of liberalized trade in North America, Canada must also pursue other opportunities to be actively connected to the increasingly interdependent global economy. With the CETA recently completed and the Canada-Korea FTA fully implemented, we look forward to Canada securing a free trade agreement with Japan, whether bilaterally or multilaterally, in the near future. Thank you, and we all look forward to any questions the committee may have.
Thank you, sir. And just for the record, I drive a Tacoma. My wife drives a Honda Civic, so we're doing all right. So, and they're working well. So we're going to start off with questioning, and we're going to go right to Mr. Hoback. And
I was under the impression that they all had a presentation, but they don't.
oh, sorry. You have more presentations, sir?
No, that's it. But we're all here to answer
Okay,
questions.
that's what I understood.
No,
Okay,
it's fine.
sorry, that was just a little misunderstanding here. But we're going to start off with dialogue with the MPs, and we're going to have Mr. Hoback up, Conservatives, for the first 5 minutes. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And gentlemen, in some of the earlier testimony and some of the meetings I've had with other manufacturers in North America, they talk about the regulations and trying to get the regulations right so we have the same standards and actually create a North American standard for the auto sector here in North America. What's your opinion on that and any advice on pursuing that?
Well, certainly, from a JAMA Canada perspective, we're certainly, as you mentioned, in favor of alignment of the regulatory environment in North America. We have been supporting the Regulatory Cooperation Council and their activities in that regard, and we think it just shouldn't be exclusively one set of standards, but there should be the opportunity for flexibility to recognize other global standards as well.
Okay, so then with these regulations, then do you see that as being something that should be done in the NAFTA agreement right now, or is this something that should be done on the side of NAFTA?
If I may, one of the things that we look at is that there's in essence that regulatory cooperation initiative underway to look at existing regulations and how they line up. That's one activity, and I think it's a valid one, but it probably isn't the more significant piece of this puzzle. As we're moving forward, technology is moving very rapidly, and particularly in areas like connected vehicle technology and automated vehicles. And in that space, certainly the Toyota point of view would be that there is an opportunity in the context of NAFTA to be trying to set up a framework agreement so that we actually create a common set of rules here in North America. That has a couple of benefits. One, vehicles travel back and forth across borders in North America. Mm-hmm. But two, by setting a common set of standards for the North American marketplace, you're going to get vehicles at the lowest possible cost to consumers in ways that make them most easily manufacturable here in the region as well. So I think both from an industry standpoint and from a consumer standpoint, putting that type of framework agreement in place would be a valuable addition to NAFTA.
Yeah, I'm glad you went there, because I was going to go there next to my next question. When you start looking at the new technologies and vehicles talking to vehicles, and I want to make sure that a Ford can talk to a Toyota, can talk to a Honda when it's driving down the road, especially as we go to automated, driverless cars and stuff like that. But one of the other concerns I have is when you take that car and let's say we're in Windsor and it's going across the border, and all of a sudden it goes across the border and it's using data now of the U.S. So you're going from an unlimited data package in Canada, and now you're going to $10 a megabyte in the U.S. Have you put any thought into what should be done in regards to solving some of those problems, so that as that vehicle crosses the border, the owner may not even be using his phone or the data on the phone, but it may be the car itself using that data? How do we handle those types of things?
So I would say, again, from the standpoint of the way that our vehicles perform, they will roam in both markets, so that's covered by part of your existing data package. But above and beyond the cost of the data itself is the question of how do you treat the privacy of the data that's flowing in and out of the car when you move between jurisdictions. So again, those issues of privacy and security, I think, lend themselves to that type of a North American strategy. So we can handle the commercial side of it, but the sort of legal framework in which it operates, I think it's very important for that government-to-government dialogue.
Okay. And of course, we've got some great technology companies here in Canada, but it seems like they can't sell in here in Canada. So what are you doing to reach out to technology companies here in Canada to take advantage of that world-leading technology? It's amazing. You'll see Canadian companies go down to the States to buy Canadian technology instead of buying it from here locally here in Canada. So are you working with other technology companies here in Canada? And I'm kind of thinking like your dashboards. And again, getting back to the fact that we start getting cars talking to cars, the safety aspect of the benefits that will provide. Where do you see that going?
Well, again, across the industry, our companies are working with a variety of suppliers, including a number of Canadian suppliers. There certainly has been a lot of spin-off from the BlackBerry group into organizations like QNX, but beyond them into companies with security technology and so forth. and that's being rolled up into technologies delivered by Toyota as an example. But I think that's true across the industry. There's an opportunity for those joint ventures.
And they'll all be open architecture?
Yes, but with a very serious look, manufacturer by manufacturer, at how to maintain data integrity and security.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Holbach, and we're going to go over to the Liberals now. Madame Lapointe, you have the floor for 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Merci beaucoup. C'est très intéressant ce que vous dites depuis tantôt, ce que mon collègue, M. Holbach, a posé comme question. Vous avez parlé des nouvelles technologies, les voitures autonomes. Vous savez qu'on a la piste d'essai à Blainville, au Québec, qui est juste au nord de ma circonscription. Et c'est principalement là qu'on va faire la piste d'essai des voitures autonomes. Qu'est-ce que vous suggéreriez qu'on prenne en considération, étant donné que vous représentez les voitures japonaises? Vous sembliez dire qu'on devrait regarder la possibilité d'avoir les mêmes normes au niveau des nouvelles technologies?
So it's already the case in the auto industry that we work toward very broad-based standards, but use different technologies in order to achieve those technology outcomes. What is very important is not the specifics of the technology in the vehicle, but the protocol for communication car to car. And amongst the other things that we look at is how to maintain the integrity of the message that will travel from a vehicle to another vehicle or to built infrastructure. And so that's one of the areas where a lot of research is being done here in Canada in terms of that data security and integrity. In the same way that, today cell phones talk to each other, but offer different styles, different design, different operating systems, you're going to see that in the auto industry as well. But it's how we make it all work together that's going to be the important question, and where the industry works together and in collaboration with government to ensure those standards are in place.
Est-ce que vous croyez qu'en ayant le nouvel accord ALENA 2.0 ou NAFTA 2.0, est-ce que ce serait le genre de problème qu'on pourrait adresser